Hey guys, Dan here with Merlin. Hello, Merlin.
Hello again.
Welcome to the final Frasier Friday. It's hard to believe. This is
Final.
our 22nd, or actually, we did a single episode for just the pilot. So
The
this is
good
actually
son.
the good son. So this is our 23rd Frasier podcast.
Man.
Uh, it's hard to believe.
When did we start it?
We
Was it early this year?
we
Last
no,
year?
couldn't have been this year because there were a few where we didn't do one. It wasn't like it was every week.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's actually easier probably now to do them, not only because we could just set up the Zoom, but
Uh-huh.
we're both in our houses like 24/7. So we've been breezing through these seasons.
Lately,
Like,
yeah.
you
I think
know,
we record like every week the last couple.
yeah, exactly. And I think I finished this season in about 3 or 4 days. I mean, I just sped through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so let's talk about it. We already ran through the first 12 episodes, not too many amazing ones.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart was the bright spot.
Stewart was the bright spot, but I do think it gets better. First, we're going to talk about number 13, and this is the return of Anne, the Julia Sweeney character. It's called The Anne Who Came to Dinner. We're having issues here with our life insurance, and so Frasier decides to contact his old ex Anne from just a few episodes ago, really. So, which I think was kind of clever because the wound is still new for Anne.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, um, Anne Hodges, and so she reluctantly agrees and ends up slipping on some mayonnaise and breaks her leg. And we see all throughout the episode that she's very litigious. So him and Martin are just falling all over themselves to make things right, make her happy. She thinks Frasier is into her. It's funny, for somebody who is a real sad sack this season. I have no one. He's led on Patrick Stewart. He's led on Linney. They may not be what he's looking for, but he does have some suitors.
He's getting
Uh,
approached. That's
yeah,
true.
he is getting approached. So I don't know. I mean, I think this was a pretty funny episode.
I did too.
And Maris actually does factor in this episode as well. Again, I thought it was only maybe 2 or 3 episodes, but she keeps rearing her head. You were correct on this. This is where we have the erotic painting of Niles
Yes, where he's
with
the
the
fawn or whatever, the
pan
satyr.
flute, whatever. Yeah. Um, and so she sort of gives the cops the bait and switch with her electronic tracking device, and she hides it in the painting. So of course they seize the painting for evidence, and much to Niall's chagrin, as he's being, more and more famous here with the stuff. So I thought that part was actually kind of funny.
Hmm.
I don't know. How do you feel about the unwanted guest trope in general? Because I don't really mind it. Like things like What About Bob and
Oh, you
uh,
mean with like her having to stay there?
yes, with Anne
Okay.
having to stay there.
Hmm.
I don't mind it that much. It's one of my dad's least favorite things in TV and movies. He will not watch a TV or show or a movie where the main plot is, you're trying to get rid of someone and they won't leave.
That's an interesting thing to not
He,
like.
I think it's the uncomfortability
Huh.
of
So
it.
because he wouldn't like that situation?
Yeah, like putting himself in the shoes of the protagonist, I guess.
Could you give me an example, actually?
I think What About Bob is the best example because he loves Bill Murray, but he won't watch that movie.
Just trying to would a good example be like Anger Management, that movie with Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson?
You know what? I've never actually seen it.
Okay, well, I guess he's constantly in his life. I mean, uh yeah, I don't really mind it. I think it can be kind of funny. The cable guy.
Yes, the Cable Guy is a great example.
Cable guy.
Really, Daphne's brother Simon is a good example.
Okay, all right. Well, then maybe that
You know?
helps me answer the question. I don't think I mind it as a trope because I feel like I've seen movies and shows where I think it can be funny, but I
Yeah, I
think it
really don't.
it probably depends obviously on the writing, the jokes, and the character because as you know, I hate the Simon character.
Right.
So I don't know. It might just depend on the handling of the situation, but I think it can work. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I thought it was okay in this episode. I like Julia Sweeney. I think she, it can be funny.
Hmm.
And I like this Anne character. because I think we all know people like this who are just horrible to be around, and
But not.
they're probably good people at their core, but
Mhm.
they don't know how much they put people off.
I,
Let's.
that's why I actually do really like the character. I think she is
Mhm,
funny because I think she's a very believable, realistic character. I think you definitely everybody's been in a situation like Frasier, like she is
mhm,
difficult to be around, even though it's not the person individually. Like there's something wrong.
right.
It's just how they come off can be difficult. So
Yeah.
it's definitely comedy that I think is very relatable.
And I also like the tag where Frasier finally asks Roz how she even knows Anne in the first place. And we reveal that, she hit her with her car 10 years ago or whatever, and, still, is afraid she's going to sue her for it.
Hmm.
Um,
That's pretty
she's
great.
that kind of person. But yeah, I think as a comparison to like Julia, who just was kind of a nasty person, I don't think Anne is necessarily nasty.
No.
I think she is unaware of how much she puts people off, I guess. So yeah, all right. I just wanted to pick your brain on that. All right.
Okay.
So up next is Freudian Sleep, and this is where everyone's having different nightmares. Frasier's is that no calls are coming in. Um, Martin, they go to the cabin. This is the cabin episode of this season.
Yep, yep. Classic
Uh,
cabin.
Martin and Ronnie are going to go to the cabin. Frasier thinks he's inviting them. And then Niles thinks he invited them and him and Daphne as well. So Frasier has a nightmare where he murders Niles,
Hmm.
and Niles has a nightmare about being a father, and Daphne has a weight dream, a weight gain dream. Hilarious as always with the classic Daphne weight gain.
Hmm.
Can't get enough of that.
So
I don't know.
funny.
This episode was okay, um,
Um, yeah,
but so unmemorable. Like the only thing I ever remember about this episode, when I think back about the episodes of Frasier, is when they're getting phone calls at the studio, and he doesn't know. They finally get their first phone call after 3 months, and he can't figure out which of the 100 phones it's on.
hmm I mean, I thought this was an episode that was interesting. I like it when even sitcoms like these, they can get a little experimental. I thought it was interesting to play around with the dreams, see everybody's dream. It was an interesting idea. I liked some of the visuals. The phones were cool. I liked Niles not being able to handle being a parent with the big pie and accidentally. I thought
Yeah,
it was funny, but I also thought it was kind of dark. But it was a very believable kind of fear. Like the dreams, I think were kind of
I would agree
interesting
with that.
for the characters. I thought there was some good stuff there. The weird thing about the episode, though, for me is which kind of makes me have a harder time dealing with it. Is I thought it was an interesting episode with some funny stuff, but okay, when Frasier asks Niles for advice, Niles just dismisses him as it's easy and oh, you're just jealous of what I have. I'm like that. That seemed a little. I don't want to say it was out of character. It just I don't know
It
if
was
that
a bit on the nose.
a little bit like I really would not Niles. Okay, maybe as a psychiatrist, think, oh, that's really easy from a Freudian perspective, but he'd still talk to him, and he always wants to help him out every other time. But
Well, he does, but they do have that sibling rivalry. And I
yeah,
think the fact that Niles can be able to say to Frasier, oh, well, it's clear you're just jealous of what I have. And he doesn't say it nasty. He just
no,
says, look, you're struggling in the relationship department. I have a baby on the way. You're dipping your toe into public psychiatry again.
hmm
And I've had a successful business. You're jealous of me, and that's pretty obvious. I don't know. I thought it was definitely on the nose advice,
very.
um, but at the same time, I think he maybe relished a little bit being able to say that to him. I don't know.
You're right. There is still some of that. It's just one of those things where once again, maybe it's poking its head, but I just feel like this far in the series, he probably could have handled that a little better. But then again,
Yeah,
he was clearly under duress too. I guess you still love Daphne's dream.
with the fat Daphne, they brought fat Daphne back.
Yeah, I
Everybody,
mean, I guess if that's a fear of
no.
hers, sure.
But
No,
look, it is. Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of people that have been pregnant, and
to
it
worry
is a
about.
fear. Yeah, worry about will my partner still find me sexy, and just
Legit, yeah.
it's legit. So I can't.
So
I can't
everything's
blame her for
legit.
that.
Yeah.
Everything does seem legit. I just didn't think it was a funny episode.
Well, I'll tell
But
you what. I the fact that at the end of the episode, Martin puts everybody in their place again. Words of wisdom.
yeah, you're right.
It's like, oh, okay, you're this, you're this. Join the club. Let's go to sleep.
You're right.
That was all right.
You know, it's funny. Like I feel like I'm being a little bit contradictory because I keep saying, "Oh, well, they already did that storyline." No, that's a common sitcom trope. Here, they did try something different.
That's what I'm saying. It's a very
So
different episode, at least. You know,
wrong.
I kind of appreciated that.
Yeah, and unlike some of the other episodes that we've talked about over many seasons, that people are out of character or oh, Frasier's being a jerk. Nobody is out of character here. You're right. Like everybody really is suffering from what they would have nightmares about.
Yeah, so I guess with
I
some of
just
these,
didn't think it was that funny of an episode for
yeah, and
sitcom.
that's how I split. Yeah, it wasn't quite as funny, but I found it interesting at least.
Yes, I guess you're right. As an experiment, it was interesting.
Yeah.
So up next, though, we have several very funny episodes.
Okay.
I think these next three are all very funny. First is Caught Me Act. This is the Nanny G episode where we have Laurie Metcalf come back as Nanny G. Then the one after that is Boo, in which Frasier gets sort of made fun of by Martin for being a scaredy cat. So Frasier decides to scare him with the clown costume. And then the episode after that is where the elderly neighbor, played by Estelle Parsons, also from Roseanne, he steals a treasure,
the medal,
the Olympic medal, and sneak their way to their party. So these three episodes are sort of all, not that they're all the same, but I think we can talk about them all kind of at once.
Good. Okay.
They're all very, they're pratfall episodes. They are farce episodes. So first up is the Nanny G episode, which is a character that goes back to Cheers.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so she's been played by several different people. Emma Thompson actually played her on Cheers.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
And she was in one episode, but she came in as Frasier's ex-girlfriend. He was married to Lilith at the time, and she was trying to get him back.
Okay.
So this is a running gag, sort of, that Nanny G and Frasier have this very, very, long-standing...
Heated affair.
Yes, it's all about the sex for them. And then, of course, we saw a young gal play Nanny G in the one flashback where... Or no, it wasn't a flashback, but the dream sequence or whatever, where he saw all of his big girlfriends. Diane was in it, Lilith was in it, and Nanny G was in it as the hippie girl.
Oh, she was the hippie girl.
Yeah, that was Nanny G.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So we've seen this character several times over the course of Frasier and Cheers. And here she's played by the great Laurie Metcalf, and we find out she's married now to one of her producers. And Roz's daughter is at the age to really love this kind of music. So, Frasier tries to pull some strings, but at the same time, they end up in this prop bed together, having sex or about to, and then the show starts and the bed comes up from the ground.
My pants. I can't get
this,
up.
This to me was a great episode.
All right. I was wondering, because I did find this one funny, but I will admit, I think that this episode is probably the most daring. This is clearly a last season, because I'm thinking we've got a kids show host with a live audience, a bunch of kids, and Frasier is about to have sex with this performer in the middle of a show with a bunch of kids. I'm like, he has to dress up like a baby to pretend like it's part of the with the little bottom.
It's out there. I mean, it's definitely it's out there.
It's definitely pushing the limits of what I feel like Frasier would get away with. I was thinking as I'm watching, I can't believe this is a Frasier episode because it's so risque and raunchy. I'm like, wow, they thought they could get away with this one. Why not?
Well, and one thing that I think we can all agree with season 11 is that they're taking chances.
They really are taking risks this season. They really are.
Maybe they don't all pay off. Maybe some do. I don't know, but yeah, I thought, for example, okay, so in the Cheers episode she's in, she leaves Frasier with, she's doing a tour like usual, and she's in Boston, and she meets up with Frasier. At this point, Frederick is the one who wants to go see her. I think Freddie's maybe 3 at this point in So he wants to go see her, and she comes to the bar after the show and leaves Frasier with this present, and it's a teddy bear that sings a song about how you should learn your phone number.
Mm-hmm.
And so the example in the song is that Nanny G gives Frasier her phone number and repeats it over and over and over again. And Lilith is just like, this woman is obviously coming on to you. This is her telephone number, whatever. So she tears the bear apart and ruins the recorder.
Mm-hmm.
And then Norm and Cliff come from the back singing the song of the phone number. It's very funny.
Nice.
So yeah, so I have a nice relationship with Nanny G there. But so up next is Boo. This is the clown episode. I think you love this episode, so I think you should talk about it.
Well, I mean, Frasier. All right, is Frasier? I feel like at this
Talk
point,
about daring.
Very daring.
Give Dad a heart attack.
Has Frasier been doing his private practice again for a couple episodes at this point?
Yes, because I think it was last season that we saw the one where everybody comes in as like the first day guest.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
like,
that was it.
Sarah Silverman was one of them.
Yes, that was
good.
That
was last season, right?
Or was it this season?
I don't know. Let me look at the special guest.
Because I remember we hadn't talked about. No, it has to be because Sarah.
It is this season. No, it is this season.
Okay.
Sarah Silverman. So wait, what episode was that?
I don't know.
We didn't even really talk about it.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, that was a great part when he's like constantly failing and everybody's like, there's a bunch of guests. What episode was that?
I don't know. Now I gotta look.
We gotta talk about that one for a second.
It must be one of the Maris episodes.
Yeah, maybe when he's starting his private practice, because like there's.
Yes, you know what? It was the very first. It was the one with the baby shower.
Okay, that's
so
why.
We actually should have talked about this in the last segment because that was
yeah.
Okay, so you know what? We should actually reverse what we said about that in the last episode.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
We had said that part 2 with the faux pas and Frasier's part with the news was very funny, but that the first half of the Maris plotline wasn't funny. It actually was because it was from that episode where he starts his own practice.
Because that part I thought was great with all the guest stars coming in. No matter if our journey is 12 years or just a single day, and he's like, whatever. That was
right. So we actually should have to take that back because that was very funny. Sarah Silverman, one of them, couldn't stop laughing because she had a private
dated him,
her roommate or whatever, and then you had all these other people kind of coming and going. So all right, so it's been about half the season, I guess, that he's had this private practice, but these are the only 2 episodes where it's really come up.
But yeah, I guess so. And this one, he has the lady that's afraid of clowns, and he's trying to get her to overcome it, but he's failing because the Jack in the Box keeps jumping out and scaring her. That's the buildup. So he's
so good.
And he gets so angry. He gets so angry, of course, at his dad, like I said, for making fun of him. So he's like, I'm going to get him. I'm actually going to dress up like the clown. And obviously, and he actually, Frasier makes a pretty great looking, scary clown. And I just love the moment where he just, he's not even thinking about it. He goes, he pulls out the cleaver, and his dad just flat out goes. He thinks, oh, you're faking it. He puts his dad in the hospital, and everyone.
Well, this is a Cheers throwback as well.
Is it?
In one of the later seasons of Cheers, Rebecca is trying to throw a birthday party for an executive's kid, and the clown bails. So she gets Frasier to be the clown at the party.
Oh, wow. So he's got some experience with it. That's a callback. That's great. And I think my favorite part about it is he's trying to cover it up. Like, oh, you came here to look after your father. You're such a good son. But like he tried to murder.
And then the doctor comes out and he's like, okay, so.
What was the cause? You see, you dressed up as a clown with the cleaver
and hid in the bathroom. Very funny.
But and also it kind of wait. Does this tie into the mild cardiac event? And he has to tell Ronnie. Yeah.
Basically,
not a big deal. Not a big deal. Yeah.
He's afraid to tell her because she doesn't want him to. He doesn't want her to think of him as an old man. And she's like, well, that's nothing. Like. You're in, you're out. They didn't even keep you overnight. Like, what's the big deal?
Mm-hmm. He's like, what? I had a heart attack. He's a big deal. He
ends up proposing to her at the end of the episode.
Yeah, he does. And accidentally, he doesn't even realize he proposed to her. It was kind of great.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Which I thought was fun. Yeah, I think this is a good episode. I think these episodes here in the middle are, look, the last 4 or 5 episodes are all these, like, this Laura Linney storyline. Mm-hmm. I think they're kind of like, let's get all the sillies out of the way before we introduce Frasier to the woman that, you know, he's going to be with the rest of the season. So, you know, these three are all very funny. The last one of the three is Coots and Ladders. This is, again, you know, Frasier is having some down on his luck problems. What's he doing on a Friday night but helping an old woman down the hall, you know, put up something on her shelf or whatever.
Something on a bookshelf, yeah.
Yeah, he's helping her with the bookshelf or cleaning or something. And so...
And then he decides to give in to his evil side and commit a crime,
yeah,
the buildup.
commit a crime.
And then the whole thing is the framing device of trying to tell Niles the story. It's like, oh, that's great. Like, I was there. I was there this morning. Like, he was reciting places where scenes
Right.
Niles did. My favorite part is where it's like, I'm beginning to think you didn't do anything.
Yeah, this season, Niles is very sure of himself, really. You know,
he really is.
He's getting him in at Frasier. And then they end up, you know, breaking back in to return the item, and little do they know there's a surprise birthday party for the old woman about to take place, and the item that they stole is sort of the object of discussion at the party because it's an Olympic gold medal, where she, you know, didn't want to shake Hitler's hand and stuff. And
there's a story that could top that. You see, there was a cookie, and we both reached for it.
Yeah, so good. That's Laurie Metcalf, who plays Jackie on Roseanne, was Nanny G, and this old woman is Roseanne and Jackie's mom on Roseanne. So a couple of Roseanne guests back to back. All right, so up next is Match Game. This is where we are introduced to the Laura Linney character. She runs a matchmaking service that is a couple floors above Frasier's office, and you know, he says, "Oh, I got off at the wrong floor. This isn't for me." And she talks him into going on a couple of dates with some women, and they all turn out to be horrible. And it turns out that's her only client base. She's just getting started because her ex-husband took her business back in Chicago. And so this is also the episode. The B story here is where Niles and Daphne are like getting with a doula and the whole placenta plan and all that thing, which I don't know. I mean, that was kind of funny, I guess, when Niles was doing the whole labor pains thing. And, you know, again, that's probably been done on so many shows. But yeah, I liked the introduction of this Laura Linney character. Her name is Charlotte. Yeah. So what do you think?
Yeah, I thought that the introduction to the matchmaking service was fun because he's like, oh, I don't have women problems, and then he runs into the lady in the elevator that he used to date and he forgot, and then he comes back out and she kind of just hands him the card, like, yeah, that was pretty great. Yeah, I also really like Laura Linney. I think she's a great actress, so it was kind of cool to get to see her kind of be the last love interest for Frasier.
Yeah, I've always liked Laura Linney, so I was happy to see that as well. She was vaguely famous around this time. I mean, she was definitely doing movies, and you know, she'd done a couple of big ones. But all right, my favorite episode with her though is coming up. Up next is Miss Right Now. This is when Martin is going to meet Ronnie's mother, and you know, he met her back when she was babysitting, you know, 40 years ago or whatever. And at the same time, Frasier is realizing here that Charlotte really doesn't have any clients, and basically calls her out on it at the restaurant. But he realizes that maybe he's falling for her as well. And then this is the Jennifer Tilly episode where she plays the lady at the bar, the loose lady, Kim, that goes back to Frasier's place. The whipped cream scene is a total classic when Martin, Ronnie, and Ronnie's mom come home.
I'm lactose intolerant anyway.
Comes out with the whipped cream with the arrow to his genitals.
It's like he got another one.
So that was all very funny. Yeah, I mean, I really do like the arc here that they're taking with Laura Linney. I think it's pretty well done. But my favorite of the episodes is And Frasier Makes Three. This is the Aaron Eckhart episode where he plays Charlotte's boyfriend Frank,
the park ranger guy.
The park ranger who ends up sort of Frasier ends up sort of being not even a third wheel because they both love having him around for different reasons. And Frank doesn't get it. Frank and her have a fight. He storms out. Frasier stays there. They end up in bed together.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, Frank comes back and is like, "Oh, is that my bathrobe?" And Frasier starts stammering to explain himself. And he's like, "Oh, you came back to check on Charlotte after I left. You're true blue, buddy."
Such a good guy. Such a good guy, Frasier. Like he's so clueless. He's so like pure-hearted.
So clueless.
It's great.
Yeah, so that's my favorite of the Charlotte episodes, I would say.
Yeah.
And then this is the ring episode too, where Martin goes to get the ring. And
Oh,
out,
the rapper.
first it's Sherry's old ring, and then secondly, he gets this old rapper's ring, little Cupid.
Little Cupid engraved in there. Oh, hell, I really like you, little Cupid.
You
Like,
keep calling me that.
like stop saying that. Don't say that ever again.
Yeah, so that was good.
That was
All
pretty good.
right, so up next is Detour, and this is when Frasier is going to take Charlotte to the airport, but they get sort of off the beaten path because they keep missing the train. Frasier's too slow of a driver, and she reveals to him that she's going to be moving home to Chicago. So, let's not start anything. I don't want a long distance relationship. And then they end up at the farmhouse with
Oh yeah.
Stephen
Oh,
Root from radio.
yeah. I like this one.
Yeah, this was a good one. And the B story here is good too. This is where they have the miscommunication, Three's Company style, of the stripper, the nanny, and Daphne's replacement as physical therapist.
Yep.
And so they all sort of get,
Mixed
one
up.
taken for the other all the time. Yeah.
That's
So
a fun
yeah,
one.
this was a funny one, I thought.
Yeah, I thought this was another one like that, like the B story, like it says, the classic, misidentity, communication. That was classic Frasier stuff. But the main story, I think, was another one of, what, this is the last season. Let's get wacky. Let's go have him stranded in the farmhouse with this weird family.
Have the woman or the mom of the man of the house be dead in
the living room where they're sleeping
the next day.
There's a creepy son going in there and that was pretty good stuff, actually. I thought it was
yeah. I think this is definitely a highlight. Listen, I think even though the first half was uneven at best, Patrick Stewart episode was good. Frasier setting up his practice was good. We didn't talk about that in the last episode, but it was. But here we've had a lot of experimental episodes, and many of them have worked.
Surprisingly.
Now, I don't really like the next one.
Okay.
Crock Tales. This is Frasier chipping his crock pot, and it sparks all these memories of different things that the crock pot's been involved with.
You know what?
Io and the Crane family doing 4th of July, and Kenny showing up at the station. Delivery boy, I should say.
I kind of like this one, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I kind of thought it was cool for them to do flashbacks and kind of emulating the different periods of the show, and the fact they were able to kind of do that and poke fun of the running gags of each season, and you got to see their growth. I liked that idea. Well, it was a funny part.
I did like that it wasn't just merely a flashback episode.
No, it was new scenes.
Yes, reshooting new scenes with different hair pieces for Frasier.
Mullet returns for last one. That was I don't know, man. That
A+ for you automatically.
Dude, I don't know. I kind of thought it was cool. I'm like, oh yeah, that was the thing that season. And it was kind of cool to see the reverse of his relationship with Daphne. I don't know. I thought the scenes were good. I thought there was some good stuff there.
You know what? You're not wrong, but I think for me it's the second to last episode. The Laura Linney stuff is just getting started. There's only one episode left, and granted, it's an hour long. It's a double episode, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is this is the place for it.
Okay.
Because where else would you put it?
Because I thought this was clearly okay. How you're gonna have your main plot focuses. So we're gonna have a little tidbit of thematically this is our swan song memory of the whole show. I thought it was sweet. I thought it was sweet.
Right. I don't know what my problem is with it. It wasn't funny. Maybe that was.
I don't know. I thought the part where they get locked out in the balcony was pretty funny.
Yeah, that wasn't bad, and I did like the Rosie Perez bit as Elizabeth.
Yeah, Rosie Perez was funny. Super, very super.
Yeah, that's not bad. I don't know. I guess they also sort of rehashed some of my least favorite parts of the story. You know, like stuff with Maris that I didn't really care for. Also, the whole Kenny being a pizza boy thing doesn't
Makes
really make
sense.
sense with the timeline at all. So I didn't really like that part either. But yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I guess it was cute as a second to last episode to sort of,
A sentimental, nostalgic thing. I
yeah.
thought it was nice. I thought it was a nice episode, actually.
And you know what? I guess when I consider that most of the season enders are sort of more think pieces, more sentimental, more how has Frasier grown. I guess you're right. I guess it makes sense in the whole scheme of everything.
Like, you're right. If this hadn't been the last season, this would have been the season closer. Probably.
Yeah. I still don't think it's all that funny, to be honest, except for the Rosie Perez stuff.
She was funny.
She was very funny. Yeah, definitely.
I thought it was kind of cool that even in the last couple episodes, they were still sneaking in some great, great cameos. I mean, Sarah Silverman was there, a couple other people, but I mean, Rosie Perez, Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
In the last couple, I was like, wow, that's awesome. So
yeah, that is pretty cool. You're right. All right, so I like this one then. Let's
okay. I was like, you can't hate this one, Dan. It's pretty nice.
I didn't say I hated it.
You're right. It's not. It wasn't like, you know what? It was not like, Stitch Side's funny, but it was still good to watch. I think.
Part of it is I wanted more Frasier and to know that there was only one episode after this.
We'll talk about it a little more. I think after the season finale. But like, I know what you mean. That we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm curious your thoughts on the last. Yeah,
the finale is called Goodnight Seattle, appropriately. It is a two-parter, like I said, so it was an hour-long episode. And here he meets a woman named Anne on a flight and is explaining to her in flashback, basically, everything that's gone on with, Martin and Ronnie are getting married right now, and Charlotte's leaving for Chicago right now, and all this kind of stuff is happening. And so he's explaining this. I thought it was interesting that the woman on the plane was named Anne when the Julia Sweeney character earlier in their season was also named Anne. But
yeah,
all right. And Niles and Daphne end up having the baby she goes into birth at the wedding, goes into labor. And so they go to the vet. Another classic guest star, Jason Biggs.
Yeah. As the vet, yeah,
having a nice guest star in the final episode. So I like this episode, but I didn't love it. I think as far as series finales go, I think it's probably on the higher end of the middle. Like, it's not top tier. It's definitely not bad.
No.
But I think it's on the higher end of the middle sort of tier. I'd probably put like a B+. Like, for series finales, B+ I don't think is bad.
No.
Because these series finales are hard to do. But I mean, I hated that we brought back all of Roz's family, the worst characters of
all. Yeah, man.
I hated that.
Like, that's, I'm kind of glad to hear your feelings about this, because I'll be honest, like, I didn't love the season finale of Frasier, and that disappointed me a little bit. Like I agree with you, and I was trying to figure out what it was. I guess it was a little bit sentimental. There were some funny moments, like with the baby and the monkey. Like, there were some funny lines. It wasn't bad with the ice statue melting and everything going wrong. But like, for some reason, I just felt like there could have been more time devoted to certain jokes and certain character beats. It felt very rushed, for a two-parter.
I wanted, like, if I'm gonna enjoy the series finale, I want it to be with the core five.
Like I want it. I'll be honest. I know there's the wedding, but I'm like, I want the apartment. I want the radio station. I want a good mix of both, not this wedding. And you're right. Daphne's family, Simon and her brothers, the gag with like, oh, his language. Like, this is not the time for this. No Simon and Daphne's family in the last episode. I hate that. I hate that whole plot line. I hate it.
I hated that. Didn't like that. But that being said, I do love how the series wraps up when, he's going to take this other job in San Francisco. he's saying his goodbyes to everybody, da 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 da, and then we reveal at the very end. We think as the audience he's going to San Francisco, but it turns out he is going, at least on this flight, to Chicago to see Charlotte.
Thank you for clearing that up.
And what's interesting is, did you think when you saw this, now that we know the synopsis for the possible reboot, Frasier has said that his character is in Chicago for the reboot.
Okay.
So is he with Charlotte? Did he get married? I don't know.
Well, all I remember from that interview is he said that it will probably be about Frasier trying to find love still. So who knows I don't know what that means. So maybe it
wasn't
work
in
out.
that particular interview, but he has said that it is going to be in Chicago.
Okay, so it is going to be.
I thought it was weird that he is not in Seattle anymore or Boston.
That is weird.
I kind of forgot that the last episode he leaves for San Fran for another radio show, but I remember specifically him saying Chicago. So when that came up in the finale, when he's like, "Oh, we're landing in Chicago," I was like, "Oh, he's going to see Charlotte. That's so awesome." I'm so dumb. I always forget how it ends, even though I watch the show every 3 years. I always forget that, oh, he picked Charlotte. But when they said Chicago, I was like, oh, that's where he said the reboot's going to take place. That's interesting. So, yeah. So what do you think happens at the end? You think he's just visiting Charlotte in Chicago, or?
I'm actually glad you cleared it up for me, because I was like, wait a minute, did I miss something? Because the whole episode, they're framing it as I'm taking the job in San Francisco. That's going to be my leap. But he doesn't really tell anybody that he's actually going to pursue her. And you kind of feel like that's sort of like
at the end.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like you think that's sort of been resolved in the previous episodes. So I'll admit, I was a little confused. I was like, well, wait a minute, what is going? So it's a little open-ended. It's actually, you could easily miss that.
It's definitely open-ended, because it's never stated that he didn't take the job in San Francisco.
That's why I was confused.
Just that this particular flight that he's on, that we think is to San Francisco,
it's going to Chicago.
Is to Chicago to see Charlotte.
So something may have changed. It's interesting. It was an interesting way to end it.
Well, and I think he's looking at the new baby. He's looking at Martin and Ronnie, and I think he realizes that, I would rather be with this Charlotte person who I've really bonded with over the last, couple weeks or whatever, as opposed to just focusing on my career. So I think that's sort of, but yeah, I mean, it's a cliffhanger. We don't know necessarily what happened, So I love that part of it. That's one of my favorite parts of the episode. I think the whole animal hospital thing is funny. There's some laughs there with the monkey, but the whole Jason Biggs thing, oh, this is my first day, and I'm already delivering a baby, and it's I don't know, but you're the only person in the whole place.
The
and
staff,
it's your
yeah.
day. That doesn't make any sense. I know I'm a little nitpicky for a sitcom. I understand that, but but yeah, I don't know. But the whole Daphne family stuff was horrible, of course.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So yeah, I would say as series finales go, this is on the better end of the middle.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I would say Cheers is great. I would say there's a few that come to mind. Wonder Years is great. And there's been some that have been horrible. That are just, I don't know, generic, or I don't like the choices that were made, or whatever. But I think this was a nice send off to the character Frasier, but not really a send off to the whole family.
Agreed.
Although I do like that they had their baby.
Yeah, everybody gets a happy ending, but it's it didn't really feel that fleshed out as it could have been, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, everybody gets a happy ending out of it. Frasier, I think, is still open-ended, of course. And Ross gets a happy ending too, because there's going to be a new station manager, and oh my God, who's it going to be? Da, 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 da. And it turns out they offered it to Roz, which
cool send off too.
It's a cool send off coming from the world of radio. I don't find it very believable.
No,
but
probably not.
It's a nice wrap up for her character for sure. So so that's the season. I guess we should grade the season before we talk about sort of wrap up thoughts for the series.
Sure.
I think I would give this a B+.
Okay.
Much like probably the finale itself. I think there's definitely some rocky episodes here, but I think the last half, with a lot of the really hilarious sort of more off the wall episodes like your Nanny G, mixed in with the Laura Linney storyline, I think really worked well, and I think helped balance out some of the not so great episodes in the first half.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
uh,
Well, definitely better than the last season, though not as tremendous as I thought it was going to be.
no, I remember thinking this was a hot season, and I guess just because it wraps up so great, and I do like the Laura Linney arc, but I forget about all the stinkers in here. This is definitely a step up from season 10. Season 10 is the worst.
Well,
We could
season 10 is the worst because they just had Frasier acting so out of character some episodes.
horrible. Uh, so I think this is in line with like seasons 8 and 9 pretty much. Like I think those first and you sent me an article. I forget
Screen
who it
Rant
was.
or something.
Screen Rant maybe, yeah. Or and they ranked all of these seasons, and they actually didn't have 10 as the worst. They had Fat Daphne as the worst,
Mm,
which is 8, I believe.
hmm
Um, but I don't know. I think I agreed with a lot of their more upper tier choices. I mean, 3 and 4, I think are the peak, like most shows. I mean, most long lasting shows hit their stride like in seasons 3, 4, and 5. I think
That's like the peak for sitcoms, yeah.
we're getting to know these characters really well. They're not really repeating themselves yet, and that sort of thing. I mean, I think most long standing sitcoms you could say that about. I do think they graded the first season a little harshly.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember I don't remember the list exactly, but I think I for me, I mean, I agree. I don't know. I think the first couple seasons of Frasier are still like my favorites. I don't know. I really like those
Season
early
one
seasons.
is such a strong season
Yeah.
for a season one. And like we've talked about, like if it was not season one, I would say okay, this is more middling. But
hmm
for a season one, it was pretty solid. All right, so here's the list. I just pulled it up.
Okay.
You were right. It was Screen Rant. So they have season 8 at the bottom.
Okay.
Then season 10. Have to agree with that.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, yeah.
Season 9 at number 9. I would probably agree with that. And then they have season 1 at number 8, which I just think
Ooh.
is nonsense.
That's too harsh for
That's
season
way
one.
too.
The
Uh,
mullet years are too good, man. They're too good.
yeah, and mullet years are great. And then after that, they have this season, season 11, which I don't agree with. Season 1 is definitely better than this season.
Oh, for sure. For
Um,
sure.
but definitely some good ones there. And then season 6 at number 6, season 3 at number 5. I would rank that a little higher. Season 7 is at number 4, mostly because they basically rejiggered the whole storyline because that's when Niles gets together with Daphne.
Oh,
I will admit it did invigorate new life into the show.
true.
Um, but they have season 5 at number 3, which I think we both agreed was the best season. It includes the ski lodge. It includes Frasier Crane Day, our personal two favorite.
Oh, yeah. Season five's the one. Five's
So
the one.
I think for that season 5 is the one. Um, at 2 they have season 2, which I think is a little high, but it's definitely good.
Mm,
And then number 1 they have season 4, which I would agree is definitely up there.
okay.
I think the rankings are a little wacko,
A
but
little weird, yeah.
you'll get this, I think, with any kind of list like this. But yeah, I mean, I think when the two best episodes are both in the same season, it's
Mhm.
got to be that season at the top.
Yeah, I agree. With Frasier Crane Day, like that season takes it for sure. I'm like, oh, Frasier Crane Day is the best.
It's your favorite, and really my favorite is the cabin, and they're
That's
both great.
two wonderful
So
episodes in one
yeah,
season.
or
Absolutely.
the ski lodge rather, whatever. But yeah. So I think on the whole, now listen, I mean, we could sit here all day and rank our favorite shows of all time.
Sure.
But I am much more of a sitcom guy than you. So I want to hear, like, in the pantheon of great comedy shows, where does this rank for you?
Oh, Dan, that's a hard question. I feel like we should have talked about this early on.
Well,
Like
I
way
just thought of it right this second, so we couldn't talk
that's
about
that's such a hard question. Like in terms of like comedy
it.
shows
Because
that
I think it's one of your favorites.
it's weird. I wouldn't think of like Frasier as like something I would go to for like my typical kind of comedy for like more traditional sitcoms, but like it really is one of my favorite shows. But you're saying like in terms of like comedic shows, where does it rank?
Yeah, I'm talking like don't compare it to Breaking Bad, don't compare it to The
Okay,
Sopranos.
yeah, I got you. I
But
got you.
in terms of comedy shows or sitcoms,
That's so hard.
I think for me it's got to be top 10.
Okay,
I mean, for me, if we're counting The Simpsons as a sitcom, which
sure.
obviously it is a comedy, Simpsons has got to rank number one. But then you've also got like Cheers and Friends and Roseanne, obviously, are all up there.
Uh-huh.
You know, Seinfeld, Arrested Development. I mean, there's a lot of great shows, but Frasier is one that I've come back to probably just in the last 15 years since it's been off the air.
Hmm.
I've probably watched it all the way through at least 4 times. And you know me, I'm not the kind of person at this point in my life that rewatches things over and over and over again because there's so much new stuff out there now with all the streamers and everything. I like to dive into some new things.
I know.
So I usually pick 1 or 2 shows at a time. Like I went through Raymond, last year or whatever. I'm just wrapping up Weeds. I just finished season 7 of Weeds. So I'll pick 1 or 2 shows at a time to do that with. But Frasier's one that continually keeps coming up on the pile.
Well,
For
I guess as an answer to your question, I mean, I think that's a good place to guess start our ending conversation. Really, I feel like Frasier's just a show that is just oddly more important to me than I guess I would realize. Like growing up, I wouldn't have thought it was a show that I'd gravitate to. But you're right,
yeah,
much like you, I have watched the whole show several times through, and I can't really say I have never marathoned another sitcom like that other than Frasier.
and you've done it before this podcast too.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
you
This is
have done it several times before we
like,
even talked about doing a Frasier Friday.
oh yeah, that's kind of why I knew I could do it because I
Yeah,
grew up watching it. I saw, of course, a lot of episodes out of order, just randomly on TV,
right.
something I'd watch. And I think this is probably my third time through it. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think I've watched pretty much the whole show twice before this. So I think it's a show that I really like in general. But in terms of comedy, I mean, like you, I mean, Simpsons.
Seinfeld's probably your favorite.
I was gonna say Simpsons is obviously like a show that is really near and dear to my heart. That in terms of pure laughs and I think intelligent comedy,
Yeah.
I feel like Simpsons is probably like above Frasier in terms of that. But in terms of pure going for it for the jokes to laugh, Seinfeld is like my for humor. It's probably like because like Frasier. Simpsons, obviously, it's got more visual gags, a lot of homages, and there's also a lot of heart and morals with The Simpsons. Whereas Seinfeld, I just think is like it's just going for the jokes. It's just going
Yeah.
for. So for me, Frasier is probably definitely up there for sitcoms. Because I mean, I liked Everybody Loves Raymond. I really liked Drew Carey show.
Yeah, you are a big Carrie fan.
I'm a Drew Carey fan. There's probably a couple other ones I'm not thinking of right now.
Well, I
That
mean, and I will say, I mean, part of the reason I've watched this one so much in the last 15 years, as opposed to certain others that I mentioned, is because I grew up on Roseanne and Cheers, and I've seen those so many times because there were less choices, to watch TV back then.
hmm
So, I've seen episodes of Cheers probably 10, 12 times. So, I don't watch Cheers anymore. I haven't seen Seinfeld in probably several years. I don't really watch Friends anymore just because I've seen those episodes so many times.
hmm
Could I sit down and watch Seinfeld all the way through and laugh as much as I did with Frasier? Yeah, probably, even though I've seen those a long time, or many times. But because it's been a long time since I have, that's why. But I think Frasier's always a go-to because I mean, I was out of college by the time it went off the air. So yes, I watched it while it was on. I watched it in reruns, but um, I think it is not dated at all.
Not really, no,
You
actually.
know, it really isn't. I mean, other than a couple of references here or there, it's very, I think, relatable, even if you are not in this community at all. Like this is, I think, one of Frasier's great strengths, and we
Okay.
probably talked about this in the pilot episode, is that even though the show is brilliant, writing is brilliant. It's very, very highfalutin writing. It's got a lot of references that go over certainly my head.
Me too.
And we're not dumb people.
I don't think so. No.
But the brilliance of this show is, and I think Cheers had it a little bit as well by introducing Frasier, is that everyone can relate to the people on this show. Pretty much everybody on this show, because even though Frasier is, a psychiatrist and he's so intelligent,
Cultured, sophisticated.
Right, he's cultured and sophisticated. He stumbles at love. He stumbles at knowing himself.
And wordplay and situations.
Wordplay. Yes, wordplay. And then you've got Martin and Roz, who are more down to earth, more blue collar. So you can relate to them as well. And Niles and Frasier's, back and forth. Anybody that's had a sibling or a cousin or whoever or a best friend who you spat with, that's relatable. I think more than a lot of shows like Seinfeld is funny. Seinfeld's funny, but I don't relate to any of those people.
No, they're all they're all very much based on Larry David's personality, his view of the world. So it's wacky, but are they the most relatable people you'd want to like?
And Always Sunny and Arrested Development are the same way. I love those shows and they're very funny, but I don't see myself in any of those people.
No, they're a little out there.
Yeah. Whereas, Frasier is, you can relate to everybody. And I think that's what turns me on to a lot of the shows I've mentioned, Roseanne and Friends and even Will and Grace, and a lot of those shows where people are it's silly. They have silly things happen to them.
Sure.
But the characters themselves are more down to earth than in a Seinfeld.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Seinfeld's very cartoony in comparison.
Very cartoony. And like I said, it's hilarious. I can't deny that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that is one of Frasier's strengths. Even if you don't get the references that they're talking about or whatever, you can find something about this show, that you can relate to.
I think it's got something for everybody, really. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow, what a Frasier Friday run we've had. And we've already decided our next Friday show anyway is going to be Freaks and Geeks. We sort of had a moment. I don't know if we said this on the air or off the air, but the first show we ever did this with was Sopranos, and that was a show you loved that I had never seen.
Yep.
And then we settled on Frasier, which is a show that we've both seen and loved.
True.
So you were like, Dan, it's your turn. Pick one. And of course, me in the alliteration. So right away, I'm thinking of, okay, what F shows are there that we can do? Nobody said we had to do it on a Friday, I guess.
No.
But so we're going to do Freaks and Geeks Fridays. But I do want to announce something special that I haven't told you yet.
Oh, no.
One of my great TV, DVD, bootleg dealers is retiring. So I had a very, very large purchase from this gentleman.
Okay.
And I have the complete series of probably 100 more shows than I did a week ago.
Okay.
One of those series is, because I got it for like $8, the complete Home Improvement. I'm not saying that I want to do season reviews or episode reviews of Home Improvement, but I think if you and I want to sit down, watch maybe 5 or 6 episodes of Home Improvement and talk about them, maybe one from each season or something.
All right.
I'd be very willing to do a Home Improvement.
Look, I've been making fun of you about the Home Improvement thing. Look, it's one. Okay, here, this is a good example of comparison to Frasier. I grew up watching Frasier and came back to it many times and love it. Home Improvement was on when I was a kid. I don't care about whatever. I mean, every episode was the same. That's
what I'm saying. Every episode, I hated it.
But you know what? I have fond memories. I love Tim Allen. Okay.
Yeah, you do.
I'll watch a couple episodes of Home Improvement with you. Yeah.
I think you know what. Just like Frasier Friday was a joke at first, and then we did it. I think we've been talking. You've been touting me doing Home Improvement reviews for years.
It's just that was. If you do one video, I'll be happy. But
yeah.
But we also have to do it because we have to talk about the OC. We got to watch some OC at some point.
You're right, actually. The OC.
I don't know why.
No, you're right. Because I bought the whole series, the one Black Friday for like $30 or whatever, I'd seen like 2 episodes. I was like, oh, I don't know. It seems like something I might like. And you were like, oh my God, the OC.
Well, it was
You were so excited to hear
well,
about
well, it's because I didn't think about it for so long. And when I was a teenager, I was very, very briefly into that show, but
it. Yeah.
I never finished it though, so I have no idea what happens.
No, we got it. We should do some OC reviews.
Just for the heck of it. And if we and I'll
So,
but I'll tell you though, if we just like Home Improvement, if we just watch it and we're like, this is terrible, I don't have to commit to the whole thing. It's
yeah,
not
okay with that.
okay. Okay.
But either way, next for sure is going to be Freaks and Geeks. We're going to do episode by episode videos because it only lasted 1 season. So it'll actually be less videos overall than doing 2 every season for Frasier.
Yeah. Wow.
So we'll do that, and that'll be starting up in a couple weeks, maybe next week. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But Merlin, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, man. I can't. I'm telling you, man. It was just a little joke, and then it became a thing. It eventually
Yeah,
became a
it
whole
became a
thing.
thing. And I think it's worked out well. I love watching this show every 2 or 3 years. So there you go. Thank you for joining, and we'll see everybody real soon. Bye.